Hey guys, it's Dan with Philosophical Fishing, the channel completely dedicated to benzo damage and recovery. I hope you're all doing well today. Today's video, I'm going to talk about working in benzo damage and how hard that can be. I know we all come into benzo damage with different circumstances, different amounts of money. Some of us have savings, some of us don't have any money, and we have to go back to work really, really soon. And the prospect of even thinking about going back to work in benzo damage can be absolutely terrifying. I know it was for me. When I first came off of benzos, my circumstances were I didn't have any money in savings. I was completely living off of credit, and I was so broken, I was so damaged, and I was just so fearful about the prospect of even going back to work that the thought of it made me incredibly anxious. I was so sick from the benzodiazepines, and I was like, how am I ever going to work again? I felt like I just needed at least a year or possibly 2 or 3 years off of benzos just to straighten out my body and my mind before I could even think about going back to work. But I didn't have that luxury. I was an addict, I was an alcoholic for a very long time, and living like that meant I wasn't exactly saving money and doing the things that I needed to do financially to set myself up for any kind of success at all. So when I came off of benzos, I just walked into a complete shit show financially, and it was really, really tough. You know, I had just lost my house, and my wife and I and my child had to downsize into a townhouse. And mind you, I was really, really grateful for that. And I was so grateful that I had a place to go and a place to stay, because if you watch my last video, you know that I also almost didn't have a marriage or even a place to go back to. So the fact that I actually had a home and a roof over my head and food to eat, I was incredibly, incredibly grateful for what I had. But I also was extremely anxious just going out into public and going to the grocery store and paying for food and putting my food up on the little conveyor belt and going to pay the cashier for it was really, really tough for me. And that's just a normal everyday thing that most people don't think about. But you know, if you've come off of benzos or you're tapering, how high your anxiety can be. And it's so tough just to do normal everyday things. And so thinking about going back to work and having to earn money again is like, oh my God, how am I going to do this? How am I just going to get through a single day and put one foot in front of the other, much less try to go back into the workforce and go try to make a living? It's really, really scary. And so if that's where you're at, I totally understand. I've been there. I get it. I've walked that walk. I've done it. I totally get where you're at, and I know how scary it is and how overwhelming that can feel. And so for me, when I first came off of benzos, the first 6 months or so, I did take off. I did just kind of try to heal and work on getting better physically and mentally. And being in the recovery community, that meant I went to a lot of meetings every week. I was going to about 4, 5, 6 meetings. I was meeting new people, I was learning new things, I was learning new skills to cope with life, I was learning new strategies to deal with benzo withdrawal, just learning how to do life one day at a time without turning around and going back down that dark road. And that meant that I was completely learning basically how to live life over again. So before my life completely just tanked as a result of using benzos for many, many years, I used to be a teacher, and I taught middle school for about 4 years. And I knew I couldn't really go back into doing that right away, even though I kind of dipped my toe into it and thought about it, and I interviewed at a school. I just knew that that wasn't going to be really an option for me because I was still so heavily damaged, and it was so hard to talk, and I was full of anxiety, I was full of fear, and I thought that the best thing for me would just be to take a very easy, minimal job where I didn't have to think much and I could get back into the workforce and do something very simple. And so that's what I did. And I went to go take a job at Lowe's home improvement store, mixing paint for people part-time, which is a job that, even though it was basically something where I didn't have to think a whole lot, I didn't have to strategize, problem solve. I mean, literally Somebody would go pick the color paint that they wanted from the palette. They would bring it over to me. I would key in the number for it, and I would put the white paint down in front of the thing that shot the paint in, and it basically, it did everything. It mixed it for me. It made the color, and I would, here's your paint. And just doing that was so good for me. I didn't realize how much that was actually going to facilitate healing, because I was forced every day to go to this place early in the morning, and it was hard. It was so hard. I'm not going to tell you that it was easy. Nothing about this process has been easy for me at all. But I got there at 5 in the morning. I would roll the lawnmowers out to the front, and we would put all that stuff on display, and my body hurt so bad. My back would hurt. I remember trying to push those big heavy things, and I was so full of anxiety. It was hard to talk to people. It was hard for my body to get going at 5 a.m. I still couldn't drink coffee or have caffeine, so I would feel tired but anxious. And that's a horrible thing to feel. If you know that tired but anxious feeling, there's just no way out of that. You just have to basically sit through it and go through it and get to the other side. But the morning would go on, and by 9 or 10 o'clock, I would start to feel better, and people would start coming in the store, and I would start to have little mini conversations with people, and they would ask me what paint looks good for my house. I'm like, I don't know, just pick a freaking color out on the wall, please, and give it to me, and I'll mix it for you, and you can be on your way. I'm not like a home improvement interior designer, just, I'm functioning at a base level right now. You have no idea what I've been through. Give me the damn color, here's your paint. But just doing that part-time helped me to heal in so many ways, to try to have conversations with people, to be back out in the workforce, to feel like I was contributing, and practicing gratitude that entire time. Because I basically said, I can look at this one of two ways. I can look at this as like, oh my God, my life is wrecked. I'm so damaged. I have no idea if I'm ever going to get better. I have no idea if I'm going to be able to function past the level where I'm at right now. And what am I going to do? How am I going to live? How am I going to make money again? How am I going to move forward in my life? How am I going to do this? And it was also a big ego thing for me, because I thought that, this job is below me. I should be doing something better, and I should be doing something, that's at a higher level for me. And who cares? It's a job. It was just something for me to go do, to help me to get better, to get back on my feet, to facilitate healing in so many ways that I couldn't even recognize at the time. But in retrospect, I see the value of having gone in, and it was a way for me to step out way past my comfort zone at 6 months off of benzos and just say, I'm going to do this because I have to do it. I really didn't have a choice. I had to go earn some money and get a paycheck and have some income coming in. And there was just nothing else for me to do. So this is what I found. And for me, my ego was telling me that, this is job, it's below me. And, what are you doing here? You should be ashamed of yourself. And, all that is such crap. Who cares? Even if I was still doing that today, that doesn't mean that's who I am as a person or as a father or as a provider. My job is not who I am. Your job is not who you are. You are something way bigger, way more expansive, way beyond words and concepts and jobs. Anything that you do to push yourself past your comfort zone a little bit at a time in benzo withdrawal is going to be so good for you in the long run. I'm not suggesting go bungee jumping right now and take 10 steps, way forward, but just a little bit at a time. And that's what it's been for me. It's just been step by step by step. So I started off mixing paint at Lowe's, and then after doing that for about 8 months, I got a job working full-time somewhere else, and I did that job for 3 years, and I got to move up and learn new things and learn new skills, and I just kept going forward. And it was all painful. It was all hard in its own way, but it all had its own rewards in a lot of ways, because I kept going and I kept learning that, hey, I can do this. I can put myself out there. I can take steps forward. I can keep going and I can learn new things. And even though it's really hard to retain information, even though my memory is so damaged, I can still find ways that I can retain things and I can learn things, and my brain is changing, and the neuroplasticity and practicing gratitude and practicing meditation and talking to people and having conversations and learning, always learning new things, learning new coping strategies, new ways to deal with things. All of this was so helpful for me. And I'm someone who thought, I can't do this. There's no way. I'm so messed up from these drugs. And I was really messed up from the benzos. But I learned that if I kept putting one foot in front of the other, if I kept going, if I kept putting myself out there a little bit at a time each day, the days turn into weeks, the weeks turn into months, and the months turn into years. And then you're looking back going, holy shit, I did it. I put myself out there. I went out and I did this thing. I know for some people out there, this may not sound like a big deal, but for a lot of us who are so beat down and our brains are so heavily bogged down by the benzos, that going out and taking a job and being in the workforce and interacting with the public seems absolutely terrifying. And that's how it was for me. But I learned that I could do it, and I keep growing and I keep expanding on that. And so wherever you're at in your journey, maybe you haven't lost a job, maybe you're still in your job and you've got a good job, just be grateful for that. Be grateful that you can still work. If you are like me and you completely fell out of the workforce for 6 or 7 months and had to start all over again from the bottom and come back up, then just know that you can do it. You can do it. You can, even if you have to start all over again from the bottom and find your footing again, you can do it. I did it. And as I always say, it's not because I'm not Superman, I'm not something special, but I know that for each one of us, our healing journeys are going to be different. Anything that you do in benzo damage is going to help you. Even if you go out there and you try something and you fall flat on your ass and you have to come back with your tail between your legs, the fact that you attempted it, the fact that you went out and tried, the fact that you're trying to get better, that's enough. That's totally enough, because it just shows that you're not giving up. So guys, I know if you're in the early stages, I know it sucks. I know it's really hard. So please just remember, if I can do it, you can do it. Just hang in there. You will get to the other side. You will. Just keep going. I know it feels like it takes so long, and in a lot of cases it does take a long time before the symptoms begin to drop off and you start to get some relief. And some of us have some windows early on, and those are signs of things to come, of better things to come. So just hang on to it. If you get a window, hang on to it. Know that there's more of that coming, as long as you just keep moving forward when you can, as often as you can. And if some days all you can do is lay on the couch and cry, that's fine too. Just do that. But for now, just know that you're going to get better if you just keep going. I love you guys. I hope this video helped you, and I'll see you in the next one.